Welcome to Pillar Talk with Rochelle, where authentic people share real stories focusing on one of the 12 pillars in my book, Simply Complex, Leading Out of Authenticity. I am your host, Rochelle Armstrong, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Good morning, Janee.
Good morning, Miss Rochelle.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Hey, I can't complain. It's a little overcast today.
Yeah.
Other than that, the sun is still shining inside. And I'm just excited to do this interview today.
Amen. I'm excited.
Well, Janee, it's no secret between you and I that we've had to get through some obstacles or go through some obstacles to get to this moment.
Yes.
So, special to me. It's something about when you got to go through obstacles or opposition to get to what you're trying to do that makes you have a greater appreciation.
Yes.
But what I love about both of us is we were determined to make this happen.
Amen.
All right.
Amen.
So with that being said, we're going to use this time together to just really have a talk about self-love today. That's the pillar, right?
Yes, self-love.
About self-love. But before we do so, I just want to share with the audience how we know one another. And so we met several years ago through a mutual friend who's also been on the podcast, Miss Charlotte.
Yes, shout out to her name.
Shout out to Charlotte. And so, we've just stayed in touch over the years. You were doing my daughter's hair. When I decided to publish the book, I was able to reach out to you for guidance, and you were totally open and supportive. So I just want to thank you for that.
Oh, no problem. You're more than welcome.
And with that being said, I do want to share a little bit about you because I know that you're an author and you have already published your book as well. And so I just want you to share with our audience a little more about Janee and what it is that you do.
Okay. Yes, I am an author. I have a book, I'm No One's Girlfriend, and Obedience Got Me Here. I am a licensed cosmetologist. I just recently left from behind the chair to become a full-time wig maker. So I still own my salon. I just walked away from behind the chairs, but I still get to dabble in hair with making wigs. So that's fun. I am a worship leader, a wife, a mother, and a few other things. So I'm just trying to juggle it all.
So sweet. And you look absolutely lovely. I love the hairstyle.
Thank you.
I don't know if that's really a hip word to use.
I haven't heard it lately, but I'll let you have it.
So give me a word I can use to tell you that you look good.
Let's see. Jesus be like, I don't know. I'm not that hip either. Let's see.
I'm so old school.
You don't really say. They just like, I see you. That's what we say now.
And I do say that all the time. Okay, I see you.
Okay, I see you. And so then.
Okay, I see you. Okay.
I see you. Yeah.
Well, and so yes, I see you. And again, it's just an honor to have you on here. And so what I would like to do is just go ahead and get into our pillar. And so just in your own words, when you think about self-love, what jumps out at you?
What jumps out at me is me loving myself with self-love. Finding a way to love myself my way. Me being able to identify what self-love is. Like, I get to determine what self-love is for me.
So give me an example. What does self-love look like when you're loving yourself, Janee?
When I'm loving myself, self-love is me dating myself. That's my self-love. I take myself out often. On dates and do things that I want to do. Because as I said before, I have so many responsibilities of being a wife, a mother, and working, doing the wigs, trying to run the salon, being worship leader. I have to manage and run so many different things that sometimes those are things that I don't want to do sometimes, And so to self-love, self-care is me taking the time out to do something that I want to do. And that's how I love on myself, like just treating myself. And then going even deeper than that, accepting who I am is what self-love is for me.
Okay, so 2 questions come to mind as I hear you speak. One, give us an example of what a date with yourself look like.
Okay, a date with myself would be, I take a journal. Okay. I love to write and just kind of process my thoughts. I take my journal. Sometimes I take a book. Sometimes it's just me and my cell phone, and I scroll and scroll and scroll as long as I want to scroll, because I don't have anyone on the other end of the table, to say, oh, that's rude. Or because like when me and my husband go out, we actually put our phones in the center of the table because it is such a distraction. But I don't have to worry about that when it's just me. So that's my date.
I like that because, and when you talk about self-love, one of the things that you mentioned is how I like to be loved. So are you familiar with the 5 love languages?
Yes, I am. Yes, ma'am.
So what are your top 2 love languages?
My top 2 are quality time and acts of service.
So the one that I always find most interesting is the acts of service, because as I talk to different people, it kind of means something different to them. So for you, what would an act of service look like to show you love?
Oh gosh, the dishes.
Okay.
Like, the dishes, just taking something off my hands,
literally a service, right?
Literally a service, like coming in and help doing something, doing the laundry, something that I know that I'm responsible for, but it kind of eases, that up for me. So it's like, oh my God, you are speaking to my heart,
Yeah.
You do something like cut the grass. Oh my God, like, thank you. Something that I would normally do myself. So that is. Yeah.
Okay. Do you find that changes over seasons? What that
absolutely.
Like?
Absolutely. I think, and I think even the places of the love languages change. Because now I see gifts is creeping up, and I blame that on my husband. I was like, you need to stop. Okay. You did this. You're swallowing me. And so now I've gotten used to receive, because before, as a single person, I didn't, I treated myself. I didn't really expect gifts, from someone else. But now, because he does shower me, with love that way, now it's like, okay, I kind of like this, what I mean? And so it's kind of creeping up to the top, where it was like maybe number 5 at some point. So, or maybe 4 or 5, something like that.
And what I'm hearing to an extent is sometimes you don't know what you like until you have it.
Yes.
So like, and the reason I'm asking such detail about the love languages is my husband and I, we both took the assessment, and then we also facilitated like a marriage or a couples retreat on the topic. Okay. And interestingly enough, when he and I took it years ago, I remember my top 2 were like quality time and words of affirmation. And his was like touch and acts of service. So it's the opposite, right?
Yeah.
So what I know is that the golden rule is to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Yes. But the platinum rule is to do unto others as they desire. And I'm paraphrasing. So a lot of times we love people, instead of loving them the way they like to be loved, we love them how we like to be loved.
Yes.
And so when you said act of service, that really sparked something in me, because for him, it doesn't necessarily mean he wants me to do a service as much as he wants me to show up with him.
Yeah.
So like he likes for me to go places. So I'm introverted. Gotcha. And so I really recharge being alone.
Yeah.
And so for him as an extrovert, it's not even about the conversation or how many people are around, but especially with his wife, he just wants me to be there. That's kind of an act of service. And so understanding that, look, back in the day, I want to take my separate car. I wouldn't take separate cars because, again, as an introvert, we have limits. So, okay. So because I'm sociable, people read that as I'm an extrovert. But as an introvert, I enjoy people. I like to socialize, but I have limits.
Yes.
So I want to take my own car because he might want to stay longer than I want to stay.
Absolutely.
And so like I'll be ready to go.
Yes.
And then I don't have to worry about like, you got to go because I'm ready to go. We just take separate cars.
Yes.
Well, not for him. So for him, he enjoys all of it. Like he wants us to ride together. He wants us to go together and be together. And so I was curious, what did an act of service look like for you? And from what I'm hearing, it's literally service.
Yes, it's literally service. Like, I mean, I want my husband to show up. He does show up. But I think acts of service, I found myself giving myself away that way more than so much as people asking people to show up for me. Now, the expectation, of course, for my husband that I have for someone else is totally different, but I do love that way. So like even today, I dressed today because one of my, again, I sing. So one of my friends was like, hey, can you come help sing on my praise team tonight at Bible study? So I always give myself away that way as an act of service.
Okay.
Just because that is my love language. So, and I don't mind doing, I freely do it all the time. I don't necessarily put that on other people because I think I'm just worried about getting let down. But my husband, I hold him to his man.
I know that's right. I know that's right. Yeah. Well, all that said, the reason why I said we took the assessment years ago, but I asked you, do you think it changes, is because more recently we did take it again. And I forgot that mine had moved up. Like you said, that they can kind of move around. Yeah. And guess what moved up on mine?
The words of affirmation. Exercise. Okay.
But again, that looks different for me. So I'm more like you. So for me, I think it's sexy when I come home and the house is clean.
Yes.
You show me that you love me when you do something, because we don't necessarily have gender roles. I don't think knowingly, but I think just naturally, I'm probably doing more domestic work. And honestly, for me to like clean is like a stress reliever.
Yes, it is.
But every now and then, you don't feel like it. So I'm like, if I come home, and the difference, like I'm kind of that tidy person that's going to kind of keep the house tidy. But when he cleans, he does like a deep cleaning.
And see, we're the opposite. So I appreciate, I always say he straightens up. I appreciate him straightening up. But I'm that person that's like moving the couch, getting behind, like it gets real serious.
That's twice a year for me.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely wired up as that spring cleaner. And then when we go into the fall, going into the winter, I kind of do that as well. But he definitely goes deep. But day to day, I'm dusting. I'm just kind of making sure we don't have no stains anywhere. Everything's kind of tidy. But like you said, when he does it, he's going beneath the surface. But just kind of getting into the love languages as the focus is self-love today. I just think it's interesting how that looks different for everyone. And just to make sure, like you said in the very beginning, that self-love for me is really how I like to be loved, but not expecting necessarily someone else to love you that way because you love yourself that way.
Yes, that's it. And I think you don't get as let down and disappointed when a person doesn't love you the way that you need to be loved if you learn to love yourself first. You know what I mean? And so that changes everything because, like you said earlier, like we naturally love people the way that we like. My husband's love language is physical touch and words of affirmation. Neither move me. Neither, And so I appreciate him affirming me. I appreciate the hugs, the kiss, everything. But it's not what I need. You know what I mean? But if he doesn't give me my love language, it doesn't necessarily like destroy me. You know what I mean?
Right.
I appreciate it more when he's able to give it to me because I know he's having to at this point go beyond himself to love me that way because his natural way of loving aren't my love languages. So I know he's going beyond himself to do that. So I appreciate it. But because I figured out quality time, I take myself on dates. I do these things. I spend that quality time with myself. And because the acts of service, like I show up and, for myself and do the things that I need to do for myself, like that's important.
Well, and what the beauty in that, Nay, is it really does take the pressure off of other people. And out of love, out of genuine love for one another, especially in a romantic relationship, I like what you said, the intentionality.
Yes.
That even though our love languages are different, because I know you like to be loved this way, I'm going to love you that way, but it takes the pressure off in case it doesn't happen. The expectation is I can still love myself that way, even if you miss a day, an opportunity, or a moment, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I want to go ahead and focus more on you and not just the love languages. But some people may not be familiar with the 5 love languages. So if you're listening and you never taken the assessment, you can Google everything. So you can go out there and Google 5 love languages. There are ways that you can actually, take the assessment and just really focusing on loving people the way they like to be loved, but loving yourself the way you like to be loved, more importantly.
Absolutely.
So Janee, now that you have arrived to self-love, the question I have for you, have you always had this love of self?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
And your origin.
I actually wouldn't even say arrive. Because I believe it's something that you constantly have to put into practice. You know what I mean? Like, I think like anything else, like I'm constantly having to fight off the insecurities, having to, shut up the voices in my head and all that. It's just that I'm very intentional about demonstrating the love. I'm very intentional about affirming and reminding myself that I am loved and accepting who I am. So I think that's when self-love shows up for me. So I don't think I'm right.
Okay.
Nope, not at
all. So what I'm going to do is kind of go deeper in the sense that I think not all people, but maybe some people, they have life-changing events. That kind of change how they look at life, how they view themselves, how they view others. And what I'm kind of getting at, was there ever a time in your life that maybe you struggled with loving yourself a little more than you do today?
Yes, absolutely. I can go back to a relationship I was in that ended up being a domestic violent relationship. It didn't start out that way, but turned into that. And just the things that he would say to me that I think kept me, because, and I, like, you hear people say like, once a woman is in that situation, like it takes her several times before she leaves. And I truly believe it's because you believe the lies. Like you believe, like I remember, like nobody's gonna want you, nobody's gonna, you're not this and you're not that, and nobody else look like the isolation from people, friends, family. So you get in a world where it feels like it literally is only you and that person. And so when it's just you and that person because you have isolated everyone else, whether it be because of guilt, shame, or whatever reason, that you have found yourself over here just along with you and him. I got to a place where I truly believed that this was all I had, and this was the only person that loved me, and this was, all that life had to offer. But it wasn't until, and I think I just got tired.
Okay.
I got tired one day. No, I've shared this before. I had a dream. And in my dream, I literally seen someone coming out on a stretcher in a body bag. And I didn't know if that was me under there or him under there. And because it got to the point where it's like, okay, I'm fighting back now. You know what I mean? I'm fighting back. So when I had that dream, I knew it was time to go, because it was like, this is not going to end well, Janee. Like either you're going to, be dead or in jail. Right. And so after that, and like I said, just getting tired, I walked away from that relationship and literally had to build myself up, like getting closer with God and just having to build who I am up from there, because it was so dark after, in that situation. And even after that, like I had, because of that situation, being off of work from black eyes and whatever, not having the doctor's appointments and all this stuff, that I missed a lot of work and end up losing my job. So I lost my job, and then I ended up losing my car. I almost lost my apartment. I was able to keep that. And I was like starting over from ground zero from that situation. But from that situation, I had to heal. Like, and I mean, it took years of healing, like, for me to get to a place of loving and accepting Janee.
Okay, let's pause for a moment.
Okay.
The first thing I want to do with you sharing something, so vulnerable, making yourself vulnerable and being, so transparent. Are you in a good place with it now?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Like, even, and it's so crazy because when I see him, like, there's no hurt. Like, I speak, hey, how you doing? Like, I'm able to pray for him. Like, I have no ill will. I have set boundaries. Like, you can only come so far, but like, there's no, like, no, definitely in a much better place.
Great. Praise and so, because I realize, and I'm happy to hear that, because a lot of times, if I have guests come on here, you don't know which direction the conversation go. I'm not a therapist. And so if you open up and they share such things, like, I'm very careful that you're, in a good place. Open up. But most people, and I don't want to make an assumption, but most people can talk about wounds, but not, they can talk about scars, but not wounds. Okay. So what I mean by that is a scar has probably healed.
Yes.
Most people can talk about things that have healed, but then there's open wounds. And those are the things that we struggle to talk about.
Yeah.
So I'm trusting, if people come on here, we're talking, if they share something really intimate and personal like that, they're talking about scars.
A scar,
open wounds. And so with that being said, what I would like to do for our listeners, and it's just on my heart to do this.
Okay.
I'm just thinking about, it could be a male or a female who is in an abusive relationship. Emotionally, physically, verbally. And they are in the shoes that you were once in. And they're trying to get out. But my question for anyone is, how do you feel like you got here in the first place? So we're talking about self-love. Again, I'm not sure what processes you went through to get your healing, to get to the point you're at today. But if you reflect back, what are some of the things that you went through personally that you feel like allowed you, for a lack of a better word, to get into a relationship with someone who did not value you and treat you like the queen that you are?
No, that's a good question. And I think it goes because I didn't have self-love. Because I didn't have self-love, I felt guilt about, I had previously been in a relationship that I didn't really treat. I was young, so this is like 18, 19. So by the time I dated the other guy, I was like maybe right at 20, 21. And so I had the 18, 19-year-old relationship. I had just kind of live freely, should I say. I didn't treat him the best, you know what I mean? And end up actually going over here because the grass looked greener, you know what I mean, over here. And went over to this other relationship, and I felt so bad about how I treated this guy over here that I stayed, because I felt like this is what I deserve. This is what, you know what I mean? Like, you did this to yourself. You made this choice, And so I just found myself, kept staying in this relationship because of that. I think I also grew up, my biological father absent. So I've just always wanted that love of a man. And so I had it. And like I said, our relationship didn't start off physical, it didn't start that way. So I was getting all the things, I mean,
walk us through that. So I'm curious, because what were some of the things that drew you to him in the first place?
Without saying too much, let's see.
Okay. And right. You control your narrative.
Let's see. So we share, we have a common like music. I'll just say that. And so because of the music brought us together, you know what I mean? Singer, musician, boom, here we are. And so because of that, that's what really even drew my attention. And so I even talk about this in my book, like sometimes it's not even so much as the person, and this is what I've learned after the fact. It's not the person that you are attracted to. It is sometimes the gift of the talent and the anointing that comes with the gift and the talent. So, and that's what I realized now, like it wasn't him that I was necessarily attracted to, but the glory, the anointing that fell on him when he was in that position. Oh my God, it was beautiful. You know what I mean? And drew me in.
You're helping us. You're helping people, because the reason I say that is as I'm listening to you, you know, a lot of times, no matter what situation you find yourself in, don't you just wonder, how did I ever find myself in
that place? Absolutely. Absolutely.
So as I'm listening to you reflect back, I know your love for music, you're a worship leader. You see this person in this position that has this beautiful gift. You're drawn to that. And people can do that with people in position of power.
Absolutely.
People who have like a certain title, or like you're saying, maybe they're not necessarily drawn to the person. They're drawn to either what they represent or what they do.
Absolutely. And that's what I realized. Like we were friends, but some of those red flags, as people would say, they were there. But because I seen the talent, the gift, that was so much louder and stronger than the red flags. You dismiss it. You completely overlook it because it's like, this was glorified. And so when I was focusing on that and not the heart and not the person that was in front of me, I was able to find myself in a place ending up in this type of relationship. So yeah.
It happens. And I think the thing about it is, you know, you talk about those red flags. So I heard someone say one time, they mentioned a yellow flag. So yellow means caution, right?
Caution, yeah.
Red is kind of like, we're already here. This is happening, you know? And so what I would ask, do you feel like maybe early on you saw some yellow flags, some things that were concerning, but as you stated, you kind of just ignored them?
Absolutely. And I think, because I think then, and I wouldn't even go and say then, I think even now, like I know women my age, I think a lot of times we really think we can change people.
We do.
Yeah. You think you can change people. You think, oh, he's not going to be that with me. You know what I mean? He's not going to do that with me. And it's like, no, sister, he is who he is. You know? And that's just what it is. And it's not until the person makes up their mind that they want the same thing with me. Like, there was nothing he could do to change me to be who he, you know, I am Janee now because Janee made up her mind to be somebody different and to do something different. So had I not made up my mind, I would be no good for my husband now. You know, it didn't, if I was still that same person, you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't work with who I'm with. And so it's just really about the person wanting to change.
Yeah, and I think that's important that you touched on. You're the Janee you are today because you wanted to change.
Yeah.
There was nothing that anyone could say or do that made you change.
Yeah.
And I think once we kind of understand that, we would stop trying to change other people.
Yeah.
But also, hopefully, you know, when people are even trying to change us, change comes from within. And until like you can't beat someone to be what you want them to be, you can't talk to them a certain type of way. Because, you know, I think this is also true, not just in romantic relationship. I think as a leader in the workplace, they can try to verbally make you become what they want you to be. I think you can see it in any type of relationship.
Yeah.
And so what I love about your story is, like you said, I saw me and I wanted to be better for me, not for everyone else.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's where the self-love comes in, because I think people will put anything on you. They're like, oh, Rochelle, your macaroni is great. You should start selling plates. And it's like,
that's so true.
But if that, you know what I mean? If that's not who I am or what I've even been called to do, like that doesn't mean, you know what I mean? It just doesn't. And so people will put you in anything just because they see you're good at it.
Okay.
Or whatnot. But you have to really be at a place secure with yourself to say, no, I just like cooking it for Thanksgiving and Christmas. It doesn't mean I'm supposed to go make a business out of it. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's so good. It's
yeah,
so
really
good.
having to know yourself and know what you've been called to do.
Let me ask you this. Have you read or heard of the book, The 4 Agreements?
I haven't. No, ma'am.
So there's a book, and I can't think of the author's name. I'm getting ready to butcher it, which is why I'm not going to say it. Okay, just being honest with you. But the one of the 4 agreements is not to make assumptions, not to take anything personally, always be your best. And it's one more. But the reason why I bring up the book is because one of the things he says is he doesn't allow people's compliments to lift him up, because if you can say something to make me feel good, you can also say something to tear me down.
Yeah, that is so good. That is so good.
You know, and it's a go-to book. It's like a little small book, and because of the 4 agreements, and I know it's on my bookshelf. I'm not going to get up and get it right now, but it's a go-to book for me because I need that as a reminder sometimes. And just kind of take what people say with a grain of salt. You appreciate it.
Yes.
But at the same time, if you're too bought into what someone is saying you're good at or amazing at, if nobody ever tells you, are you going to still show up and do the things that you're good at, whether or not someone say you're good at it or not?
Yes, that is so good. And that you have to be at a place of loving you to be able to reach to that place. Because that's so true. Some days you might not have a cheerleader.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
And some days they may say you're not that great, but you have to love who you are. You have to love what you do and be able to still go forward regardless of anyone else is half-having you. That is great. I'm gonna have to look that book up.
Yes. And you know, and I appreciate that, because I always think about, if someone has a power to make you feel good, they also have power to make you feel bad.
Yes.
And so you really just got to know your word and know that if I never hear anything, I know that I'm doing what I was created to do or what I was called to do in this moment.
Yeah.
I do believe our purpose can change.
Absolutely.
So I think a lot of times when we talk about purpose, we think, oh, if I'm a worship leader and I can sing or I can direct, that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Maybe not.
No. Yeah, maybe not.
That's just for a season.
Yeah.
But I do believe that whatever you're called to do in any season, do that as if you were doing it unto the Lord, and giving your everything to that. And maybe that season goes on forever, but if not, you know that you did quality work and you did what you could do.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And I again, my life is a testament. I see myself. I only started doing hair because feeling okay, answering a call. And now having to walk away from the chair. And one of the things I tell my husband, because I get messages all the time, oh my God, I can't find anyone. No one does hair like you. And I tell my husband, I said, I'm just grateful that I had a great run. I know that God has called me to something else. He has, removed me from that space. But I am so grateful that this is what people have to say about me, because it could go a whole nother way or whatnot. So I do appreciate that in that season that God allowed me to touch so many people, and he blessed my hands while doing so.
You got to leave on a high note.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's one of the disadvantage of when someone is crippled by fear of change.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you're called to go into a new season.
Yeah.
But if you're afraid of starting something new because you're so good at what you do, a lot of times people are afraid to do it. Because like you said, you're in a new space now. You're making wigs.
Yeah.
That's a little different. I think maybe different from doing hair, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
But like you said, you're still getting comments and requests because you were so good at what you did.
Yeah.
I believe it took a lot of courage to walk away from something so familiar and embark on something new.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's something so familiar, comfortable. all of, like, I knew this was going to pay my bills. I had a routine. I knew who was coming, who wasn't, what weeks they came. And so now in this new season, it definitely took some courage. It definitely took boldness, prayer, like all that, because so it's like, wait a minute, God, are you sure? Like, is this, but just having faith. Like, at the end of the day, just it took a lot of faith to say, okay, Lord, I trust you, and go on.
You trust God, but you also believe in yourself.
Absolutely.
You believe that he did create you in his image, and that you cannot fail if you trust him. And so if you're living your life like that, again, it goes back to people can't build you up or tear you down because you believe that you're doing what you're called to do anyway.
Absolutely. It's so many wig makers. Like, it's the thing now. Like, most women wear hair extensions. Most women are natural. Whether they wear hair extensions just because as a protective style, if they're wearing hair extensions just because they, like the look, or if it's medical conditions that they're wearing hair extensions. So it's wig makers everywhere, just like it was beauticians everywhere. But like you said, because I am confident in the God that called me to this, but I'm also confident in who I am and the skill that I have. I don't even pay attention to the competition. I don't even see them as competition. I'm trying to see what I can learn from you. I done took so many other wig makers classes. Like, ooh, she colors really well. She can do this really. You don't even view it that way. The comparison part, and I think comparison kills self-love. You know what I mean? Comparison could kill so many things about who you believe you are as yourself, because we don't look at it. We do look at it as competition and not as collaboration, and what can I get from this person, and how can I glean from this person, and whatever. So you have to get to a place of loving yourself, so that you can be willing to collab. You know what I mean? Because if you don't love yourself, you're gonna go into someone else's atmosphere and they'll talk you right out of. You know what I mean? You'll be so intimidated. You'll be so intimidated. You know what I mean? By someone else's skill set and what someone else has, that you'll be like, you know what? This isn't what I will run back to behind the chair. Because there's wig makers better than me. That is just that simple. There are wig makers, but instead of me being intimidated by the fact that they do have more skill in this area, I'm not intimidated. I'm trying to draw from that. Okay, how do you get that? How do you get, and so I think that comes with the self-love, the comparison, get rid of.
Well, excuse me. And I think one of the things we have to realize, so there's so much to an individual or a human that our looks, our skin tone, our hair texture, our personality, like there's so much to a whole person. And what we do a lot of times, you talked about comparing, we'll take one or two of those traits or attributes and we'll compare it to someone else that we think is on a higher level or the standard for that. And then we start to judge ourselves and put us down, not realizing you may be really good in other areas. Or maybe someone does have a prettier complexion. Maybe someone does have, and it is subjective. When you talk about beauty, one of the things that frustrates me, especially in our culture, is who even defined what beauty looks like.
That's it.
The features, who defined that? Because we've subscribed to that and we're comparing ourselves to this unknown person who said you have to be a certain size and a certain way to be attractive. And so I would like to talk about that a little more, because I know we talked about the abusive relationship and we talked about how did you get there? You just said because I didn't have self-love, but curious Rochelle here want to know, so where did that come from? It had to come from something within in terms of how you saw yourself. You didn't have the self-love.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I think it goes back to comparing all the way to childhood. And so as a child, I kind of blossomed early. Should I say? Like, I was a little thicker than everybody else, and so in me comparing myself, or even hearing family say, you know, how small my cousins were, it made me look at myself like, dang, I'm big, you know, like I'm the one, because it literally is like, it went from me and my cousin being able to dress like matching outfits all the time, every day. And then I started getting breasts and, you know, and it's like, wait a minute, I can't fit these clothes anymore. But she was still, you know, really small. And so I think me comparing myself to other girls my age around me made me so insecure, because I felt big. And so I carried that for years, and still have moments of, oh my God, I need to lose. I just had a baby. Oh my God, I need to lose this weight. Da, 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 da. My husband's like, no, if you're gonna do it, you do it for you. Like, yeah. And so I think for me, it began really, really early with comparison. And then on top of it, comparing weight, but then shape. Shape completely different from most of the women in my in my family. I'm sorry. So I'm more top heavy, where they are, you know, back in the back end. And so comparing that, and then what you see the world says this is beautiful, the world says this is sexy. And what I had to learn, as far as like accepting who I am and accepting how God has created me. And so again, reminding myself that, okay, I'm his masterpiece. And like you said, who said there's only one definition of what beauty is? Like, who said that there should be only one body type? Like, no. And so once I understood that, and what I do is I wear stuff that complements my body, you know what I mean, that brings out my features. I might not have the curve or whatever that someone else has, but it doesn't mean what I have isn't good, you know. And that's what I had to retrain my way of thinking, and understanding that just because you don't have this, it doesn't mean it's not good. So I think people throw away things that really are good, you know, just because we listen to what the world says, and that's not true.
Oh, I like that. People throw away things, and I should be writing this down right now. But people throw away things that are really good.
Yeah.
People get rid of things or change things that someone else may think is absolutely.
It's absolute, yeah, like absolutely. I heard someone, because again, I'm top heavy, not really in the back. And I had a friend, she told me, she was like, she wanted a butt reduction. I had never heard of it. She was like, yeah, it makes my knees hurt. I was like, what? And I was so, because I've desired that for so many years. So, oh my God, I want to just, you over here squatting and, doing it all, trying to get this certain look, my body to look a certain type of way. And she was like, no, this is heavy. And so all I know is that my breast can make my back hurt. You know what I mean? Right. So I'm like, it looks, but then I see women that's like, oh, I want to go get. I'm like, no, you don't want these problems, And so it's like, we desire something that we don't even know what comes with it. You know what I mean? And so once I understood that, it's just like, you know what? I am wonderful just the way that I am. And so I've learned to love me just the way that I am. And so I think another important thing about loving you right where you are, and what I've had to learn, is that insecurities and that's anything, it just travels with you from level to level. So if you're single and insecure and you don't deal with that, guess what's gonna happen? You're gonna be married and insecure. You know what I mean? And now you're gonna have to deal with it, and so is your spouse. And so it's like nobody wants the headache, you know what I mean? So it's like, deal with your stuff, you know what I mean? Because it only heightens each level. It doesn't die just because you went to another level in your life. No, it's coming with you, and now it's bigger. And so it's like, okay, no, let me tackle this thing head on. And so after a few levels, I was like, you got to go. You got to go.
So, you touched on image, kind of like figure, weight, etc. Yes. I think other areas that we compare is intellect.
Yes.
We compare, like we'll look at other people. Now, what we have to keep in mind, from our mind, our shape, how we're built, how we're created.
Yeah.
We have nothing to do with that.
Nothing. Yeah.
We are literally and utterly created the way God intended us to be. And if you don't believe in God, whoever created you, they created you the way that you were meant to be. Okay?
Absolutely.
And so when you think about comparing, I can't really compare myself with someone, whether if it's their size or their intellect or their personality, because I wasn't given that.
Yeah.
And so, like, when you think about, like comparing oranges and apples, we use that as an analogy a lot of times.
Yeah.
Literally, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Even if it's a sibling, even if it's your kids, like people that come from the same bloodline, it doesn't mean that you're going to have the same features, you're going to have the same intellect, the same personality. All those things are unique to you.
Yeah.
And, so that's what I love about self-love, is that embracing yourself as a whole. Because like you said, it may not always be that we're comparing shapes, but sometimes we can get down or feel bad about ourselves because we're not as smart as someone else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or we're not as bubbly, or maybe not as serious as someone else. And so I think accepting your whole person is so important, but is it realistic, Janee?
I believe so. It takes a lot of dying to yourself. I think it takes a lot of, I'll say, having to let your pride go.
Pride.
And I say that because of, again, just where I am now. So I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur now for 12 years. And so, but this year is my first year writing a business plan. Entrepreneur for 12 years. And this is my first time writing a business plan. This is my first time learning what a SWOT analysis is, doing budgets and all this stuff in this new season. And I was when I got a business coach and he's asking to see all these things, I was like, I don't even, what? Like, I mean, I got some stuff written down in my journal. Like, what are you talking about? And when I say I beat myself up so bad, I was so disappointed. Like, I don't even know, this is bigger than me. And da, da, da. All I knew, I learned how to do hair. I went to cosmetology school and I got out and did hair, And so now that I'm trying to take my business up to a different level, they're asking for all these things that I had no clue about. Because again, cosmetology didn't necessarily teach me that. Right. And I didn't go to any type of business school or college course and any of that. So, but I had to get to a place and I had to tell myself, I said, Janee, you don't know because you wasn't taught.
That's right.
Like, it's just that simple. You don't know because you wasn't taught. And so swallowing pride of 12 years and it didn't matter. None of that mattered. You know what I mean? It was just like, do what you need to do to get to the place that you need to get to in your business. And so I think it can be realistic, but it takes a lot of dying to that pride and putting that pride to the side, learning what you need to learn to get to where you need to get. And I mean, that's just how it's working for me right now.
Beautifully stated. No, I think that's perfect, because you're right. Pride is more prevalent than I think people realize.
Yes. Yeah.
As to why they're stuck in certain positions, stuck in certain relationships. Yep. It's about that image.
Yes.
But a lot of times I just have to ask, who are you? Like when I'm feeling embarrassed or if I'm feeling prideful, I'm like, who are you to even feel that way? And I think, once you kind of unmask and just kind of let your guard down and not, because essentially you're caring about what people think of you.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you're caring about those things. What would they think of me if they knew I didn't know this? If they knew that I was X, Y, and Z, you fill in the blank. And so that's kind of that fear. But then when you realize that everyone has their own issues, everyone has their own insecurities. Some people are good at this, but you're not good at everything I'm good at.
Yeah.
And once you realize that and accept it. So acceptance is key for me as well.
Absolutely.
I touched on this earlier. It's just kind of accepting stuff for what it is. And I think once you can accept it, you can move past it and then you can rise up.
And you can rise, and that's it. You can rise up. And that was me. I was like, Janee, you need to suck in, be a sponge right now.
Okay.
Get all this knowledge, all this information. Like, and again, that's another way of loving yourself, dying to that pride in doing what you need to do to elevate yourself, to get yourself to the next level. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I tell you what, I got a couple of questions before we wrap this up, but I'm just enjoying the conversation.
Yeah.
And I think, again, males and females, we all struggle with this. There's a misconception that men don't have insecurities. Why wouldn't they? They're human.
Yeah. They're human,
and so although it's two females talking, I hope that our male listeners are gaining something from this as well, because I think they just show up differently than ours. And so I really want to focus on how has self-love served you really well. So I want you to think about a particular area in your life. It could be an experience, it can be a relationship, it can be something that really positioned you. But when you think about self-love, how did it serve you really well by loving yourself?
By loving myself, wow. I think serving me well, but also serving me well, I feel like it passes down generation to generation. And so I think for me, I'm getting to see it the most through my daughter. And she's about to be 2. She's only, about to be 2. But because I have made up my mind that I am beautiful how I am and accepting who I am doing everything possible to make sure I pass that on, loving on her, and just making sure to let her know she is beautiful. She's accepted. Her hair is just as tight as her mama's.
I know that's right.
I know it's beautiful and, all that. So I think that's the part, though, that is serving me the most. It's just to see that I'm passing down love, self-love to my daughter or whatnot.
I love that. And the next question I have, typically I would ask about something negative, but I think you've already touched on that. So I'm not going to go there.
Okay.
But what I would like for you to do is think about that either young lady, that young man, they're in that formidable age. They're still being molded into becoming who they're going to be. They're on the verge of being in that abusive relationship because of the lack of self-love.
Yeah.
If there's one thing you could say to encourage them, to prevent them from getting in that type of situation, what would you say to them?
Definitely to love on yourself, to be okay with being by yourself. I think that is so important, because I think you can't love anyone else until you love yourself. So I think it's important to spend time alone with yourself to get to that place of understanding what love even looks like.
So sweet. I love that. Well, before I let you go, Janee, I have to ask you, and I think I heard it, but what is your happy place?
Oh, my happy place is my car.
Okay.
because like we said, my love language is quality time. And so it's important to me to get that time in alone. Like I said, once I get home, I'm on. I'm wife. When I get to work, it's wigs and weave and whatever needs to be done around the salon. So my car, I don't have to worry about any of that. There's no responsibilities in my car, So I just I'm that person that pulls up at home and I will sit outside my car for about 45 minutes before I walk.
Nice. Doing whatever your heart desires.
Doing whatever I desire to do. Yes.
I love that. Now, are you good on time?
That's what you mean, like a wrap?
A wrap up. Well, we're getting ready to wrap up. Yeah, but I do have another question if you have the time.
Oh, yes, I do. Go ahead.
Okay. And so the reason I'm asking is, first of all, we want people to get out there and buy your book. So will you give a shout out to your book one more time?
I will. It's I'm No One's Girlfriend and Obedience Got Me Here. It's available on Amazon. And it's also available on Kindle through Amazon. So.
All right. So we want to sell that book, Janee.
Yes.
But thinking about your book, I know that you use, is it songs, right?
Yes.
As your songs.
Yes.
And so I would like to know, do you have a Mount Rushmore of either artist or song top 4?
Yeah, okay, yes. And I'll go. So I use gospel songs in my book, and that's pretty much a lot of what I listen to. So I'm gonna use those, and I'm gonna use according to where I am now, what I'm listening to right now. So I would say, how many we doing?
4.
Okay. Number 1 would be Higher by Contagious, and it's actually a youth group with William Murphy.
Okay.
Number 2, Lord You Are Good by Ty Galbraith.
I want to start singing that.
Oh, really?
But I cannot sing. So we're not going to do that, but I'm going to go ahead and write it down.
That's it. Write it down. He's good anyhow.
If it's a song that I'm thinking you're talking about, can you sing a verse? Can you sing a line?
Lord, you are good. You've been so good. Lord, you are good. You've been better than good. That's
I just want to hear you sing. Thank you. Okay. We got Higher. We got Lord, You Are Good. What is the third?
Yes. The third is going to be, actually, I just got this song yesterday, and it's actually by Ty Galbraith as well. And it is called, and hold on, give me a minute, because I have had it. Lord, I Love You.
Lord, I Love You.
And it's just like, it's amazing. It's a nice.
You want to sing another verse?
I don't.
No? Okay.
I'm still learning this. I'm still learning
the most. Okay.
I'm not ready for that. But oh my God, it's amazing. I love it. And I just, like I said, I just caught wind of this one yesterday, and it's older, but I love it. So that one, and then number 4, I'm going to close it out with the last title of my chapter in my book is I'm Getting Ready to See by Tasha Cobb, because I just truly live and believe that I'm getting ready to see something I've never seen. And I feel I'm living that. Like my whole life has changed since I wrote this book. So wow. I believe it to be true. Yes.
On that note, I have nothing left to say but to keep leading out of authenticity, Janee. Thank you for tuning in to Pillar Talk with Rochelle. Authentic people, real stories. Rochelle Armstrong, leading authentically.